Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar, Leading in the Digital Age. My name is Mary Carnahan and I am the eLearning Resource Specialist with the Department of Education, and I am happy to welcome all of you to the webinar today. We've got two really great digital leaders with us today to present on this webinar, and we will get to them in just a few minutes, but I want to do some housekeeping, cover some housekeeping items before they get started. So if you are hearing the sound of my voice, that means that you have connected to the audio portion of this call. So we're glad that you all have joined us and can hear us today. I have muted all of the lines, so please keep your line muted. That will just prevent background noise as we're going through the call. If you would like to share something as we go, we welcome you. We encourage conversations in the background, either questions for the presenters or other participants, share ideas that you have. Please do that in the chat box that you see probably in the bottom right corner of your screen is where you are seeing that. As you share comments there, please make sure that send to everyone, that everyone is selected in that drop-down box. That way everybody sees those comments that you're making. It probably defaults to my name, and that will change again here shortly. When we change presenters, you'll need to change that again, but I'll remind you when we do that. So again, keep your line muted, which everybody is muted right now, so don't worry about muting yourself. You are, and use the chat window. Also, I am recording today's webinar, and it should be posted early to mid next week, and that is shared on our YouTube channel, and I'll share that link here in just a little bit with you all so that you can see that and all of the other webinars that we've done in the eLearning Lab. So this webinar, like I said, is part of our eLearning Lab webinar series. We, at least once a month, sometimes twice a month, we cover different educational technology-related topics, and we've had some really great topics come through. And we've got a couple coming up in the next 2 months. We will have one in December, on December the 5th, on HSDL, our Student Digital Leaders Program. I don't have a lot of details to share with that, so that's not included on there. And then I'm working on one for November. And then it will be time to get started with our spring series. So be watching social media. We share all of those topics in Twitter, and watch our website, and those will be updated as we have them ready to share. And then another great way to get just ongoing professional development is through Twitter, and we hope that you are utilizing the #INELearn hashtag on a regular basis to connect with other educators in the state of Indiana, and also a lot outside of Indiana have joined us in using that hashtag to connect with others. And also with that hashtag, we have weekly Twitter chats. Every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central, we have a Twitter chat around a different topic. This week actually is very timely. Amy Heavin, who is one of our presenters today in the webinar, is going to be talking about moderating a topic, steps of a digital teacher leader. So if you want to continue the conversation that has started today, that might fit fit what you're looking for, or you might share it with the teachers in your school to connect with that Twitter chat. So hopefully you guys will join us there. And another professional development opportunity that is ongoing with us, we do book clubs 3 times a year, and we are about in the middle, maybe a little bit past the middle of our current book club. We are reading Master the Media by Julie Smith and having just a great conversation about that. It's not too late to join in if you are looking for some information on this topic. Just like the subtitle says, teaching media literacy. It's a very timely topic that all of us should be covering no matter what we teach or what our role is at a school. It's definitely a needed topic to be covered. So we do offer PGP points for our book club. So if you're not ready to join this one, we will be having another one after the first of the year. We don't have that book selected yet. So if you've got a book in mind, you can shoot that title my way, and we'll consider it. But if this is something that you're interested in or something that you want to, again, share with the teachers in your school or your district, please do that, either jumping into this conversation or starting our next one in the spring. So that is all of the housekeeping things that I have. We are ready to jump into our topic at hand today, leading in the digital age, and I am going to turn the presentation now over to Amy. And we have Amy Heavin and Brian Knight, who, like I said, are both great digital leaders in our state, and they're going to be sharing some information with you. So, Amy, I've made you the presenter, so you're going to need to share your browser like you did earlier.
Thank you, Mary. And I want to thank the Indiana Department of Education eLearning team. You guys do an amazing job for our state, so thank you. And I want to thank everyone for joining us today. I'm Amy Heavin, and I'm the principal and lead learner at Ryan Park Elementary in Angola, Indiana, and my co-presenter.
Hi, Brian Knight. I serve as the principal at Southport High School on the south side of Indianapolis.
All right, and so today we are going to be talking with you about leading in a digital age. So to begin, just to kind of share a little bit about our digital journeys, my digital journey really began about 2011. I feel like it was before then, but I really took interest in the digital realm about that time. I joined Twitter in 2011. I lurked for a really, really long time, and I was following people and getting to know the landscape of social media. And then in 2013, something just kind of sparked inside of me, and I really became active. And I was participating in chats, and I was reading more blogs and growing my PLN. I started blogging in 2014, and I wanted to share those thoughts and reflections because I saw so many other educators doing the same. And then in 2015, I joined Voxer, which is a walkie-talkie app that I love, and I became very active in Lead-Up Chat, which is one of those chats on Twitter. At that time, I also became a moderator for the eLearn chat. I moderate the third Thursday of every month, which is the digital leadership strand. And then I really wanted to push myself more, and so that's when I became a Google Educator of Certified Level 1, something I pursued on my own. I started presenting around the state, just sharing some ideas and thoughts that I had, and then I was asked to be a member of the IDOE eLearning cadre, which has been a wonderful opportunity as well.
Yeah, so similar to Amy, I think before 2012, I was a dean at a high school, and to be in all honesty here, I really wasn't a fan of social media at that point because it created lots of problems. And as I became a principal, I think he looked at that and figured out, hey, there's got to be a way to use this to our advantage, or maybe even our kids need good digital role models because what I saw in the dean's office wasn't that. So I joined Twitter in 2012 and kind of jumped straight into it. Began blogging then about a year later from there, kind of grew in our township to starting our own Twitter chat, something we try to do so Wednesday nights, and I'll talk about Harry Chat a little bit later in this conversation. But 2015, started a Twitter chat for our conversation. That's kind of grown from there. We have kind of a Voxer group also as well that we use to communicate, do some book studies through. We have a Google Plus community where people can share resources. And then I present, and also like Amy was asked to join the DOE eLearning cadre in 2017.
So through this journey, I have found these elements to really be true, because digital leadership is not just about a particular tech tool or just being a presenter for professional development. It is not just attending conferences. It's not just starting a blog, and really, it's not just about joining Twitter. It's so much more. it really is all about creating this culture of innovation and being very transparent in what we do as leaders. We are modeling professional growth and risk-taking. We're collaborating with other educators. So digital leadership is about going outside of your comfort zone and being positive in all that we do. It's not a tool, it's a mindset. And that's how I really approach digital leadership. It's how we carry out what we do. These are just a few of some of the great books that we have read that really illustrate these important characteristics of being a digital leader, and I highly recommend all of them to you.
So to kind of reinforce that idea a little bit of what Amy was talking about, so I want you to think of a person who has inspired you. Maybe that's a teacher from the past or parent, role model, whatever it may be. And I'm going to give you 60 seconds here. I want you to write down 4 or 5 character traits that would describe that person. Holistically, things that you think they really embody or things that you learned from them. So I'll give you 60 seconds here, quiet time to write down a few characteristics, and then we'll go forward. All right, so when we think about leadership skills, kind of classify things in 2 categories. There's hard skills and there's soft skills, and this is very similar to what Amy mentioned earlier with what digital leadership is and what it's not. So hard skills are more of those tangible skills that can be taught and measured. You know, they're the technological skills that we have, statistical analysis, you know, in my role, some budgeting skills, where softer skills they're a little bit harder to quantify, things like grit and curiosity, optimism, those type of things. So I want you to look at the list that you have of those 4 or 5 skills that you wrote down and classify them as hard skills or soft skills. I think what you'll find as you start looking at those is the people that inspire us, the people that make us want to be better, we learned a lot of soft skills from those people. And not that you may not have hard skills on your list of things that they taught you, but I would assume that most of the things that you wrote down fall into that soft skill category. And similar to digital leadership and what Amy mentioned earlier, a majority of our conversation today is going to be around the softer side of digital leadership. We could come here today and talk about all kinds of tech tools that you could use, but I think the challenge with that is that if all you do in your school is teach people tech tools, you're not really equipping them for success. You're giving them things that they can throw at problems, but the goal, I think, of digital leadership is leaving the place that you work better than you found it. So the difference between being a transactional leader and a transformational leader is that when you leave your school or what you do in your school helps people become better. It equips them to be able to solve problems for themselves. So again, a lot of what we're going to talk about today falls on that softer side of digital leadership and creating that culture of leadership in your building.
So as we get started, we really need to start thinking about that culture, because that's really where our digital leadership is embedded. It's thinking about the culture that we wish to build in our schools. And so first, in being a digital leader, it's about modeling risk-taking in our schools and for our teachers and for our students. You know, one of the reasons that I decided to go for my Google Educator certification is not because I wanted to say, hey, I have this cool certification, but because I wanted to model taking that risk and going that little bit of extra for my teachers and see and show them you can do this too, and these are some great things that you can try. I never ask my teachers to do something that I'm not willing to try myself. I remember the first time that our school transitioned to Google, for instance. I remember opening up a blank Google Doc and I invited everyone to it. We were all in one room together, and then I said, start typing. Just see what this does. And so we took this amazing risk together. What today probably sounds very, very simple, but there it was building trust. That comes with that risk-taking, building trust with one another in order to try something new.
Another one of those softer skills that I think is really important in digital leadership is vulnerability. So it's hard to sit in that chair and be the one that's out in front and admit that you've made mistakes. But I think that's sometimes one of the most important things that we can do because we all make mistakes, right? So we've got to be able to share those, use those to our advantage. Kind of in that same vein of risk-taking is to put yourself out there, you've got to admit when it goes wrong. And if we play it safe and we get it right 100% of the time, we're never really getting to where we could be. We're never really challenging ourselves. If it always goes right, then are we ever really pushing as far as we could go? So some transparency in that. One thing that I do in my building, and just a way to, I think, acknowledge that and find ways to recognize people that are doing those things is we have something that's called the Penguin Award. This is something I've done, I think, for 3 or 4 years now. The Penguin Award, it's based off Randy Pausch's The Last Lecture. If you haven't read that book, Randy Pausch was teaching at Carnegie Mellon. He had pancreatic cancer, and as he was going to pass away, he wrote this book of lessons that basically he wanted to teach his kids. And one of those was about taking risks and being vulnerable in that. So he created this Penguin Award. And first he called it the First Failure Award, but he didn't like the connotation of that. He was teaching a video game design class, and in that class he said in designing a video game, you have to create something new. If you create what's already out there, you're never going to sell video games. So he gave an award to the group that took the biggest risk, even though it may have failed. So their video game may have not been a success, it may not have worked, but they took a really big risk to do that. And the penguin that comes into that is he says that, in the Arctic, where penguins live, there's really nothing that's going to kill them on the land. None of the predators that would attack a penguin are on land, they're only in the water. But also the penguins have to go in the water to eat. So to venture into the water, you have to take that risk to be the first one in there, and the first one has the most likelihood of, getting killed by the predator. So being the first penguin. So once a quarter, we recognize some folks, and the people you see in the picture there are some teachers who kind of started pairing with us on professional development, putting themselves out there, trying some new things in their classroom for us. And that was the first Penguin Award I gave in the building that I work in now. But I think that the challenge there, and a quote I have there, is you got to be careful not to make great people feel bad for doing good work. We can recognize those that are, our best and our brightest every day, but a lot of people come and do good work every single day, and finding a way to recognize those that are putting themselves out there even though it may not go well for them.
I love that Penguin Award, Brian. That's so fantastic. And, along with that comes growth. We are all learners, and I truly believe we have experts all around us. We don't have to go to fancy workshops to learn from each other. And so it's with this mindset that we establish these great learning opportunities for our staff within schools, fostering and empowering teachers to create their own opportunities as well. So at our school, we have held, a couple of mini ed camps for our district professional development days. And, teachers are creating their own sessions based on what they need. And that is so powerful. In addition, you can see right here in the middle is this really cool bus. So at our school, we love having voluntary professional learning sessions after school. And we needed a great way for us to kind of manage that. And so Mondays, we wanted to make Mondays more meaningful. And teachers can post what they want to learn about, what they want to share, and other teachers can jump on board and say, hey, I can share that because that's something I know about. And then others will jump on and say, hey, I want to learn about that too. And from there, we formulate great Monday after-school 30-minute sessions facilitated by teachers, set up by teachers, led by teachers based on what they want to know more about. Creating this really wonderful learning community within our school so that when we reach out in places like social media and teachers are creating their own professional learning network to establish and grow, they can share the great things that they're doing. They've shared within the safe zone here, and now, you know, opening themselves up to that vulnerability out there. We've built trust within the school, and I think that's huge when you're looking at building a culture and where growth is important, and you believe that experts are all around, because when you want them to reach out to other educators, not just in our school, but around the world, and the power that comes with that, when we can see what's possible within our own walls, it makes it easier to go out. It's not so scary to go out into Twitterverse if we're modeling those things within our buildings. So this is something that we have done within our building that has been very powerful in creating that professional learning community that is always happening, and we're always learning and growing from each other.
And I think along with that comes another aspect when Amy and I talked that we're a key component in kind of creating this culture, and that's autonomy, or you know, building that trust. I think too many times we ask our teachers to do all these different things in their classrooms and try different stuff with their kids and differentiate instruction, and then we continue to make professional development for them a one-size-fits-all. So I think trying to model, you know, back to that beginning of our things of modeling this risk-taking, we've got to try to do some different things in professional development for our staff that models the kind of classroom structure that we want them to run. So some things that we've tried in our building, and there's some shortened links down there that you can look at. So I've done a couple different type of genius projects with our staff where they get to, we're lucky enough to have weekly early release days where we have professional development every Wednesday. We send our kids home 25 minutes early and then have a 50-minute professional development after school. So over the past couple of years, we've taken and tried to do some different things with those. One of those was a genius project where staff gets to pick a project or something that they want to work on for the rest of the year. And those projects only had to have 3 requirements. They had to be innovative, which could be an iteration of something you've done or something new that you wanted to try. They had to cause you to take a risk or push you outside of your comfort zone in your classroom, and they had to meet a student's need. So those are the only 3 requirements that they were given, and they really just got to go explore. And once a month, they got an opportunity to go out and try some new things and do some new stuff. And then to the end of the year, they presented those to the rest of the staff. So then they got to sit down and learn from each other in those. This year, we've also, you know, similar to I think kind of what Amy said with the Egg Camp style, we've moved to trying to do kind of some unmeetings this year, or Egg Camp style meetings where every so often they get to pick the topic for professional development, and then it's more of a roundtable type discussion. But then also every year, our teachers set IGPs or individual growth plans of things they want to work on throughout the year. So as we're completing evaluations for them, we can give them feedback specifically based on what they are trying to improve in their own classroom that year. So just a way to individualize that growth, but also to give them some trust in that professional development of, hey, we know that you're professionals, and we know that if we give you the opportunity, you're going to go do some good learning on your own. So here's some opportunities to do that, as opposed to us coming at them every week and say, here's something you need to do, here's a tech tool, here's something to try. While that's good, I think when you do that all the time, it really doesn't put much value in the teacher and in the learner that they are as a professional.
So I think all of these things that Brian and I have just kind of talked about, all these mindsets tie into this culture of innovation that we really seek to build within our schools. Once again, going back to culture. So, you know, I love writing. I love to share. So my blog, and that's one of those things that I started up within my digital journey, has served as a way for me to share the work that we do here in our school and share those ideas that I have. My blog really is a lot about my personal and professional reflection and thoughts, and I push it out to the big world. It's been a way for me to reflect on some things that happen within my school, also in my personal life and how it relates to education. And I feel as though when I write, it's holding me accountable, really pushing me out there and modeling that vulnerability, again, that we want to build within our culture. So, but trust me when I say this, I've been writing my blog for years now, but every time I hit that publish button, I am still a nervous wreck. It is pretty nervous. However, my writing has given me so many opportunities, and now I've been writing for Practice Learning for a few years as well. I've had the opportunity to write for BAM Radio Network, and it's just put me out there to share and communicate with other educators and learn from them. So not only am I pushing out my learning to others, but I'm learning from others' blogs as well. So blogging is an amazing opportunity for us to share our work and ideas with other people.
Yeah, and similar to Amy, you know, I think that vulnerability piece and wanting to put your stuff out there is the reason that I started blogging. So I do two blogs. One, the Leading and Learning blog, is more of a focus on me and my learning. It's a reflective practice. I've committed to writing once a week during the school year, which is really an impractical goal sometimes. But holding myself to that requires me, I think, to look at things very differently. And I think that was an unexpected result of trying to do that, is I'm constantly looking for things to write about, and I'm constantly reflecting on what I do. And I journal on a daily basis, but turning those into a blog post, and as Amy said, is that publish button is always scary. You don't know how what you write is going to be received, but I share this with our community, with our parents, with our staff every single week, so they can, I don't know, learn from me, learn with me, share in my learning journey. But I also do something called 180 Days of Learning, and I've done this at 2 different schools where I go out in classrooms every single day, as many of us do, but I've decided that I wanted to share the great stories of learning that happen in our building. So every single day I pick a teacher, and I go in their classroom, I spend 5 or 10 minutes, and then I come back and I write a short story of learning about what happens in their classroom every day. So every single day we share a positive story about learning in our building through our 180 Days of Learning blog.
So not only, I think, sharing, you know, out with the world with the great things that are happening, but this is where I'd like to share a tool that I love, because we model and share. And Classroom is something that our teachers use a lot of, but for me, as a principal, it's been a great way for me to share information and documents and also professional learning opportunities with my teachers and with my staff. So here it's all in one place. And what I have found over the years is, quite honestly, I share a ton of things and used to share a ton of things through email. And what happens to our email? It all gets lost and everything is bogged down, and what day was that sent and what was the title of that email, where now everything is in one place. And whether you use Classroom or any of the other tools out there, again, it's not about the tool, but it's about how you're going about streamlining the information that you share, because email was not effective for me. We can take a look at what we're doing and what purpose it serves, really thinking about how we can effectively and efficiently share information with our staff. And for me, it came down to Classroom. It was a great way for me to do this so that I could compartmentalize everything that goes out versus sending out a bunch of blanket information that doesn't pertain to people. So for tools to be effective, it's not starting with the tool. It's what do we want to accomplish? Where do we begin? What is the purpose? And then let's find the great tool that matches that need and that purpose that we want. And for me, like I said, for sharing with teachers in this capacity within our school, Classroom was a great way to do so.
And similar to what Amy just said, so I mentioned the 2 blogs I have, plus there's other things that, you know, we always try to share as a school, and you know, the digital world can be really big. So one thing I try to use in sharing stories of learning is smore.com. It's a digital newsletter that's really simple to use. You get a few free, and then you have to pay for it, but it's not that much. It's worth, from what I see, it's definitely worth the money that I spend on it. But S'more allows you, it's basically a digital newsletter that allows you to compile lots of different things, from YouTube videos to websites to, you know, locations if you've got an event, to text boxes that you can put in. So each week, at the end of each week, I share stories of learning from Southport High School. So I take all of those different things that I do and compile it into one venue. S'more is also how we send out our weekly newsletter as a school. But it's a way for us to talk about all learning being important and sharing that, anything that happens in this building, and, kind of back to the 180 Days of Learning blog that I talked about, when I first started that, I kept going out looking for these big grandiose things that were happening in classrooms, and then realized that, I don't always need to share that stuff. I just need to share what's happening in a math classroom on a daily basis, what's going on in our art classrooms, and talk about all learning being important. And I think those have really helped us change kind of the conversations in our building about learning and what's going on. And, our building's really large, so I have 106 teachers, and it also allows teachers to connect with each other. And I've had lots of folks come back and say, oh, I went and talked to that teacher because I realized they were doing something similar to what I was, but they're on opposite ends of the building, and I never really interact with them. So a way to compile things, to put it together to make it easier for people to use.
So then, along with that, again, pairing off of what Brian just said about learning from each other and learning what we're all doing around the building, I love learning with others, and so a couple of years ago, we tried something new for a book study, and I love to do book studies within my school. But summer book studies, obviously we have a lot more time to read during the summer, but it's really hard to come together in groups and actually have a face-to-face conversation because we all have different schedules during the summer with vacations and whatnot. So I decided to try Blogger, and I know the eLearning, IDOE eLearning, they do their book studies through Blogger as well. I posted questions, and then we respond and we reply to one another. We combined it with some face-to-face meetings, but we had some vibrant conversation over the summer over books that we wanted to read together. So everything was voluntary, but it was a great way to help teachers share their ideas. Again, modeling that vulnerability because they are putting their ideas out there in a blog, replying to one another. And so we did so modeling that vulnerability. From this, the best part is that some of my teachers then started a blog themselves in order to share what they were doing and set up even platforms for students to share and share with their parents the things that they're learning. So it all really kind of came from this idea that, yes, we can put our learning in that digital format, and we can share and converse and have great conversation together. And how can then I take this idea, do it myself, or have my kids do that as well with an authentic audience?
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, we have a similar vein to what Amy just said, a way that we try to grow each other in our districts. We started a Perry Chat, which is a Twitter chat on Wednesday nights. We started this in the spring of 2015, and kind of jumping in, to the deep end. Just went out there with a core group of people that I knew in the district and tried to get folks to show up and extend that learning past the school day. So Wednesday nights at 8 p.m., we have it's a 35-minute Twitter chat. There's 5 questions a week that we throw out there and try to get people to come in. So this is our 3rd full school year of doing it. We're actually going to try to pare back to once a month. I think kind of the novelty of it wore off a little bit, but still we have a core group of people that show up. So we're going to try to go into some different ventures with some boxer groups and some different ways to get people together in a book study that the township's going to support, some of those type of things. But it's something that we do, and I think it's fun to see, or maybe when you realize you're doing some good work, is when you get people to show up on their own time to just sit around and talk about school, talk about professional learning with each other. So Perry Chat's something that we started and have had some good work with, but I think needs some tweaking as we move forward.
So again, one of those things to innovate is we do need to change a bit of what we do. You have to think about what you want. What is your outcome? What do you want to accomplish, and why do you want to accomplish that? And then solve it, integrating digital tools to make it happen, to make it easier. So I wanted to make more time for our staff. I wanted to utilize the time that we had as a staff together a little bit better because we do not have early release days. When we do come together, that time is short and it's precious. So my staff meetings really cannot just be about housekeeping events. We have better tools for that. honestly, I remember back to some of my, first beginning of the year staff meetings, and good golly, they were long. I mean, they were a couple of hours in length. But at the beginning of the school year, what do teachers want to spend their time doing? Well, they want their time in the classroom to get ready for kids. And quite honestly, so do I. I want them to get ready for kids too. So when I learned from my awesome PLN that they were flipping meetings and staff information, that's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to get time back for my staff. So now all my housekeeping items are put into videos. I do them once a month. I call them my at-a-glance videos. Right now, I am preparing the November at-a-glance, getting that all ready to go so that teachers know what's coming up. I have eliminated that monthly staff meeting. So each month I send out those upcoming dates and some important information. The beginning of the year is flipped as well. And so my first staff meeting now is a little less than an hour. And it's all about team building, collaboration, and goals. Everything else with all of those procedures and all of those mandated things that we have to sign off on, that is all embedded into screencasted videos and Google Forms. I flip how-tos. So when we go to change up, last year we went to a new evaluation system online, and I'm in it every day, so obviously I know how to use it, but my staff is only in there a few times per year. So I created a video that kind of guided them through how to do that and how to set up their SLOs, so they have a resource that they can go to, throw that into Classroom, and they always know where to find it. I flip information for parents, for students. When we had a new drop-off system, it's in the morning, I created a video to share with teachers, with students, and with parents so that everybody knew the expectations and what was coming up. So this then has led my staff to flip information for parents and for students, and it's really innovated our instruction so that they have more time to work with kids, and kids can self-pace through the material each day, and that's that mindset that we carry in making the most of our time. Along with that, communication is a huge key, and that's a lot of times what we think about when we think of digital tools, but it's how we're going to go about innovating within our schools. It's not just about posting something on Twitter and Facebook, and while I do that, that's not what it's about. It's about meeting our audience where they are. So a lot of our parents like to use Remind because of text messages. They love those text messages coming to them. They like to watch videos of their kids learning, and so I make videos on Animoto from time to time, and like I shared, just flipping some videos so that they know what's coming. But it's all about meeting your audience where they are. Brian, do you have anything to add to that? Yep.
Yeah, I think that's one thing with because I was a principal at a middle school before I came to Southport High School, and I think that's something I definitely had to look at and change of the audience that we were trying to reach at middle school versus high school. So, as you move, we use Facebook a lot in the middle school because that's, our kids had some accounts, but the parents definitely had accounts. And as we moved to high school, we definitely switched our thinking to what we needed to do to connect with, our major stakeholders. And at times, it's the kids that are driving the ship a lot, especially towards the end of the high school career. So, an example of using Remind, our guidance department was trying to find ways to make sure they got information to our kids. So we started a seniors-only Remind group where kids could join, and we send out scholarship information, FAFSA information, things that they need to apply for, SATs, all those type of things that they should be doing their senior year. We send it to them through Remind, which as a kid, you want things through text message. They don't want to have to go to a Facebook page or that type of stuff to get information. Those kids want it to come directly to them. So, it's looking at, what's my intended audience and what's the best way to reach them, and is it just the tool that I'm comfortable with, or is it one that is really needed to reach my kids?
Exactly. So digital leadership is that mindset. It's not just about using some cool tools. It really does then boil down to how are we empowering others. And this is probably one of my favorite slides because here it is. These are all tweets from my teachers. And it's why we model what we do. The teachers sharing out the great things that are happening in our schools, and like Brian said, you know, changing that conversation and really sharing some very cool things that are happening around our school. Modeling, you know, why we integrate with tools in order to make our jobs more effective and efficient. I love it when our teachers tell our story and they get that awesome opportunity to share what happens in their classroom. I don't think this would happen, or it might just be an isolated few if I, as a digital leader, did not share and empower them to share. You know, I want to be a retweet master is what I like to call myself at my school, retweeting the great things that are happening everywhere because I can't be everywhere. And when teachers are feeling empowered to take pictures and post them out there and share the cool things happening, then yeah, we're doing our job and changing that conversation and telling our story.
And along those lines of, you know, inspiring others to share their stories, and these three examples that I have here of people who have started blogging are folks that I don't even work with anymore, but they're kind of different venues of ways that you can get others to, you know, jump in and start putting out to the world and being transparent with what they're doing. So the first one, Bring the Hammer, is a football coach who shared the story of his learning. At Cool Principal is Mike Pinto, who's a principal at an elementary who I've met through Indiana Association of School Principals, and he started blogging about stories of learning for him. And then Matt Bush is the one on the right, who's a dean at Southport Middle School, who I used to work with, but he started blogging weekly too to try to share his story with others. And I think the point of all these and why you blog and why you do those is it shows you that all learning is important, and as a leader, when you're putting yourself out there and you're talking about that you are learning every single week, and that you are finding new ways to improve every single week, then that helps to inspire those around you to do the same thing.
So I love this quote. Definitely goes right into what Brian was saying. This quote by Brad Curry, students take risks when they see teachers take risks. Teachers take risks when they see school leaders take risks. And I think about, when I saw this quote, I think about the evolution of our makerspace in our school, which was, again, it started with an idea that I had, but then empowering a teacher team to take it and run with it and create it and develop this amazing space where kids create and learn. And now they've gone so far as to build these really cool instructional projects and ideas, and they're collaborating with each other and taking risks in their teaching, because this is really, you know, out-of-the-box thinking. But what has really been exciting is now how students are now leading this charge. So this is the second year that we've had our student makerspace leader team. And this team takes care of the space, and they're creating new ideas, and they're helping younger students with projects. But they've truly taken ownership of the space, and so much so that when I'm gone out of the building, they open it in the mornings without any prompting. And so I just love their leadership. And so they take that leadership when you empower them to have that leadership, and when you empower your teachers to have that leadership within your school. They've watched others take risks, and so they themselves are now taking risks and they're leading. And that's where I really truly feel the culture of innovation takes shape within your school. So we do, of course, have a few cool tools that we just couldn't live without, but I will say that tools are always changing. And so again, it's not about this tool, but what you do with it and why you are using it that truly matters. So here's a few cool ones that we just can't live without. Brian, do you want to share a few of yours?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's things in there that I use on a regular basis. I mean, we talked about Remind with our guidance department in a way that you can connect with kids and send them text messages without, you know, having to get their cell phone numbers and give them yours. WordPress is one I use a lot for blogging. S'more, that's over on the right-hand side, I talked about a little bit recently. There's one that I do want to talk about here that I use on a regular basis, and it's the little recording icon or the microphone icon that's in the bottom. So when I go out in a building and I do walkthroughs, The way I try to streamline that is I audio record feedback for teachers, so it's called Smart Recorder, and it's what I don't know. It's what I use. It's the easiest one for me that I've found to be able to email audio recordings to teachers. So I go in the classroom for 5 minutes, I walk out in the hallway, I open that app, I record some short feedback of, hey, I love that you did this, or think about this. And I think the great thing with that is it takes all the context of email and writing out of it, and they can hear your voice. I email it to them. I can go do 4 or 5 walkthroughs in a class period, and by the time I walk back to my office, I'm completely done because I've emailed them the audio feedback as I was walking to the next class. So a way that I've streamlined, a feedback piece for teachers in my building.
That's awesome. A couple of them on there. Boomerang for Gmail. If you are a Google school, definitely need Boomerang because you can schedule your emails to go out, and that way, you're not bombarding people all at once. You kind of can pace some things. I utilize Screencastify for my screencast, but again, it's not the only tool out there. It just kind of depends what your preferences are if you would like to screencast anything. I love Canva in creating images to send things out. TweetDeck is a must-have when it comes down to being in Twitter world or Twitterverse, so that you can definitely keep your Twitter streams in line. I talked a little bit about Voxer, but Voxer is a walkie-talkie app that is wonderful to connect your teachers to. You can send messages to them. You can also, this is a great way to connect to other educators around the state or around the world. I like Animoto as well to create videos for my parents, actually. Teachers take pictures, they send them to me, and then I can create these really cool and fun videos that are super easy to put together. I like things that are easy and quick and don't require a ton of time. And then the last one I'll share real quick is Pocket. And I find so many wonderful things to read, but a lot of times when I find them, I don't have time to read that article or that blog. And so I save it to Pocket. And Pocket is an extension, it's an app, and everything is coordinated along all of my devices. And so it's a great way for me to store some really cool things that I want to read later. So I think that pretty much covers them all. And I know there's a lot of great tools out there, and it all depends on the preference and why you want to use that. So it's totally up to you. So we'll just end with this. If you have any questions at this time, please feel free to post them in the chat box, or you can email us, or you can reach out to us via Twitter. Either way. Brian, do you have anything to add to that?
No, just, in all honesty, I'm happy to answer anything. If you send me an email, I'd be happy to give you a phone call. I always think that what we do is one beggar showing another beggar where he found food. So I don't think anything that I've shared today has been groundbreaking for me. It's all things that I've learned from other people. And Amy mentioned earlier her PLN, and Amy's a big part of my PLN, and I've learned some great things from her. So the more we talk, the more we have conversations, the better we all get.
Amen to that, absolutely. So really, I'll just, kind of open it up to questions. If we have any questions, please feel free to jot those down. I know there was a question about what Remind is, and Remind is a way to send text messages through an app. I have it set up for my parents. I have one class set up for my staff. And I know teacher-wise, they have utilized it within the classroom, then that they can communicate really well with parents within their classrooms. There's another question, Brian, for you about the name of that voice recorder app.
Yeah, that's what I was just typing back. It's called Smart Recorder. There are lots out there if you just search for recording on your phone. I found that I downloaded, I think, 4 or 5 when I first started. I found Smart Recorder just the quickest and simplest to email my recording from is why I use that one. It's only a couple clicks to get that to an email or to share it with someone. So that's why I use Smart Recorder, but there's a ton out there, so it's my preference. I'm not promoting Smart Recorder in any way, I guess, but it's the one that I found, I guess, is the easiest to email from.
And Amy, this is Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Hi. There was a follow-up to the Remind, just information about Remind, and somebody asked if it was a phone app. So can you just clarify that you can set it up on the web and get them on phone?
Yep, you can set it up on in an app. You can set it up on the web. I use both, just kind of depending on where I'm at. So I can log into my Remind account on my computer, or I can get to it on my phone, either way. It's very interesting. When I first started utilizing Remind, I just used it with my staff to start, just to kind of get my feet wet. And then the following year, I opened it up to parents. And when we had our first 2-hour delay for fog, I had a lot of people jump on board to Remind, because that I was beating the news station up here in the north because I was getting the direct call from the superintendent. So Remind is a great way to get that information out quickly, but I don't just use it for school delays and closings. We recently had to send out surveys for our advanced accreditation, so I sent out the link via Remind, and we had a better response doing it that way than any other way we've done it before. So I think that the parents just really appreciate getting it on their phone. And it's spread throughout our whole entire school district once it started getting used, and now we have coaches using it and all kinds of things. So it's very easy to use on any device that you have, whether it's a computer or a phone or an iPad.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, I think the great thing with Remind is it allows people to get a text message, but you don't have to send it from your phone. It comes through the app. Even though you can have it on your phone or your computer or whatever you do it through, then that way you can get it to people in a text message, but you don't have to share your personal phone number to do that. And that's why, she mentioned coaches. At the high school level, I think almost every single one of our coaches has a Remind group set up, and that's how they send information to their players and parents. But then they also don't have to distribute their personal cell phone number to their players and parents, because you can obviously imagine the problems that might create if everyone has your personal cell phone number. So it's an easy tool to use. It used to be called Remind 101, if you remember it as that, and they switched it to just Remind. But it's super easy to use and a great way to communicate with folks.
And just speaking as a parent, I am much more likely to read a text message that I get than to read the school newsletter. So, Amy, you're saying that you had a lot better response from your Remind message about your survey. That's definitely, we read things that pop up on our phones as text messages right away typically. So I love that idea.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
I was going to say, my own personal kids, their cross-country team has a Remind group set up, so to know, like, start and meet times or changes in those type of things, they use that a lot. So, from the parent end, it's really nice when that comes directly to you, because I get about 251 emails a day. So to have that come to me just through Remind as a parent, it's super easy.
And the other beautiful thing that I love about it, Brian, you mentioned it, not giving out your personal phone number, but also you can set up a lot of different permissions as well. So if you want people to text you back, you can, or you don't have to open up that feature. I did open it up for my parent to be able to text me. However, I set up office hours within Remind as well so that they know my preferred times to text me. And so that has also really helped in building that communication, because that's what it's about. How can we best meet the needs of those that we serve? And Remind has, that's just one tool, but it has been a wonderful tool in communicating with a variety of audiences.
Very good. Well, no other questions have come in, so I am thinking that either you've explained everything totally clearly, or everybody's overwhelmed by all the great information that they've gotten this past hour.
Well, thank you very much, Mary. I really appreciate being able to do this and share with others.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. I appreciate you being here to listen.
Yeah, it's been a great hour, and you guys shared so much terrific stuff, and you know, just we all live in isolation, whether it's a classroom teacher living in isolation in his or her classroom, or a principal or another administrator living in isolation in their building. Like, to be able to connect you all to each other and to share some tools and some ideas and some just new ways to think about things is so important. So I'm really glad that we were able to make these connections, and thank you for sharing your contact information. And I will talk with you guys off the call about maybe sharing this slideshow, or at least pieces of it, with those who were on the call today, so that they can get the resources that you've shared.
Absolutely.
That sounds great.
Great. And I did, if hopefully you all saw the messages, I put a couple in, but I have been recording this, and as long as the technology has worked the way it should, I will have this posted probably by mid-next week on our YouTube channel, and I shared a link earlier in the chat, but that is on our website in the professional development section. So again, I just really want to thank Amy and Brian for spending this hour with us, but also the time that it took to prepare for this. I know that an administrator's life is chaos some days, so I'm really glad that you guys were able to take the time. And then everybody who participated in the call, again, you've taken time out of your busy schedules to better yourselves and to help yourselves be better for your school, for your teachers and your students. So kudos to you all. Thank you so much, and hopefully we will see you all in another eLearning Lab webinar soon. So have a great evening.